Hey everybody, Coulter here. Today I want to talk a little bit about potting up plants. We're going to be potting into 4.5-inch pots because that is the size that best fits our operation. Some people will do a 3.5-inch pot as their main or a 4-inch pot as their main. It just kind of depends on who your supplier is and what you like to do. We will be using pre-stuck plugs like these we ordered in. I've been meaning to do this video for a couple weeks. In the meantime, we're actually today working with our leftovers because we have pretty much potted up everything else. So let's get right into it. So the first thing we need to do is we need to have our flats filled with soil, and we need to have an idea of what we want to plant. And hopefully you'll have taken a little bit of time to kind of plan your season, and that will have allowed you to know just how many trays you can fit and how many plants you need to order. So you'll need some plants, your filled trays. It's best if you have pixie stakes of some sort, plant labels. These are kind of nice larger ones for hanging baskets and larger pots, which usually we just order with our plugs to try to simplify things. Then I've got a bunch of these 4.5-inch pot trays pre-filled. These are 15 pots per flat, and I like to try to fill a bunch of these. We do about 1,400 trays in a year. Then we kind of try to plan things out for that number, or a little less than that number actually, because you always get a few extra plugs, which is what we're working with today, is the leftovers. So we'll be doing some mixed flats. Now, you don't have to do mixed flats. We just had enough leftovers because of how our hanging basket counts and such came out that it's going to be more worthwhile for us to plant them than throw them. So let's get to planting. One thing that some growers will do is they'll pinch or dock, depending on the variety of plant. Most plants are fine. And you can do that. The ones that you just saw me plant don't need pinched. They're real good size like that. This one's getting a little bit overgrown and crazy. In this case, I probably would pinch these. The easiest way to do it is actually just take a scissors with the whole tray and cut them all off so that they're a little bit more compact. And what that's going to do is that's going to tell the plant that we want them to focus on putting the roots down. And once the roots start to develop and take off and populate the soil in the pot, then the upper part of the plant and all the foliage can really start to grow in a really practical way, and it saves on some time later. So if I was going to do that with this, I'd probably just pull this whole limb off, and you can pinch a couple of these off. That one's in a lot better shape now for potting and transplanting. The plant will actually be less stress on the rest of the plant for it to develop those roots more quickly. So that's something that I just didn't mention a minute ago. Alright, so here's what I do. I kind of have my trays set up here. I will grab and extract the plugs, as many as I can reasonably hold in my hand from a tray, and then I will just stuff them in. Now, a lot of people will take and they'll pre-poke all their holes and flats, and they'll kind of baby the plugs, and they'll, make sure they're all perfect and whatnot. And some growers will even split the root or, disturb the root to try to stimulate more root growth. I don't find any of that necessary at all. In my experience, and talking to a few commercial growers or people who have been commercial growers for years, the best method, the most efficient method in the long run, is to extract your plugs from the strip tray or the liner and stuff them and plant them. Because that plant, as long as it's healthy, those roots are begging to go somewhere else. They're going, as soon as they get in that soil, they're going to just spread out. And one of our county horticulturists years ago told me when I was in 4-H that through a small study done at one of the state universities, they found that splitting the roots actually does more damage and slows the root spread than leaving them intact. There may be a few exceptions for this, but not generally. Now this tray's planted, ready to go to water. Before I take it and put it away where it's going to grow on, I'm going to take my stakes and put them in. I find it's best to put them in the front of the pot. Some growers will put them in the back. It's just easier from the very front of the tray to see what's in the tray when the plants are fully grown, or see the tags. This variety is Calibrachoa, It's a Mini Famous series. We find these to be really great. There's singles and doubles, wide variety of colors, and they're available through a lot of different growers. They're very easy to get plugs for. They're vegetative cuttings, they're super vigorous, bloom real early. I'm surprised these actually don't have more blooms on them right now, but it has been pretty cloudy and cold. What we'll do now is we'll take these and we will actually put them over in this greenhouse on the floor, because we don't have tables in this greenhouse. In the other greenhouse we'd put them on tables. Doesn't really matter as long as it's warm enough. And there we'll root them and grow them on until we go to sell them sometime in May. We find that if we can root things in at close to 70 degrees, like 68 to 72 degrees, that works really well. Alright, so now that we have this tray plugged and tagged, we're going to take it and we're going to go put it where it's going to grow on until we need to move it or it is time to sell it. And what we are looking for in our place to grow, the first week or so while stuff roots in, generally I like to keep things a little warmer, around 68, maybe 70 degrees. Not really any warmer than 72 is necessary. That warmer temperatures will encourage a little bit more root development a little quicker, especially if the soil temp can be kept up. And we want to keep things good and moist. We don't want it to dry out, especially during that time, so that it can get some roots established into the soil. And then we will keep an eye on it, and after everything's rooted in, we will turn the greenhouse heat down actually a little bit to save on heat and to grow a more compact and uniform plant, and then we'll turn her down into the lower 60s, like 62, maybe right in there, 65 even. We really don't want to go lower than 60 because that can cause things to be really slow. A couple things that is okay with is actually these callies or petunias. In general, we don't want to really go below 60 or the upper 50s at the lowest. And so that is kind of what we do. We will potentially give these a little bit of growth regulators at some point. I'm pretty stingy with growth regulators. I don't like to use very much. Use very gentle growth regulators that in very gentle rates, because I would rather have to cut these back manually now and again than apply too many growth regulators and have the plant kind of be failed for life. I don't want my customers to deal with a plant that grows with a lack of vigor because I overhit it with regulators, or growth regulators. We will be hopefully doing a video soon on growth regulators and soil and some other things. If you found this video at all helpful, we just would love it if you would subscribe and like it. Send it to somebody you know who you think maybe could find it entertaining or useful, and we will see you in the next video. Meanwhile, let's get growing together.